Hey, it's Jeff Burkhart from Triple I Mandolin. I've been asked to do a video on how to change your strings on your mandolin, so I'm putting that together right now. Check it out. You're going to want to start with some tools, like a string winder is nice. Pliers are nice to have. You're going to need some kind of strings. Or this is a cool tool that D'Addario does. You got your string cutter up here. You have your winder right here. And this is a cool bridge pin puller for your guitar. But we're not going to be using that today because we're working on a mandolin. My workpiece today is this here Triple I octave mandolin that I made. It's got a special tailpiece. I'll show you other tailpiece options. So that's what that is. The first thing you want to do when you're changing your strings is take off the old strings. So these are the strings that came off of this octave mandolin. I like to unwind them all the way, pull them off the post, and then get them out of the tailpiece so that they're all in one piece. And the main reason for that is I've got this bag up here. And there's about 10 pounds of strings, and they wind up really nicely. And apparently you can recycle them with D'Addario, or you give them to your artistic friends who make cool things out of them. So removing the strings, your mandolin bridge will come off, so it's not attached. If you have a French polish finish, you're probably going to have some markings like this. That's totally normal. If you have lacquer, it probably won't matter. You probably won't have that. On this instrument, I just have these S-shaped holes. But oftentimes, if you have F holes, the bridge will line up right in between the inside points where those F holes are. So don't worry about that right now. Just keep it. Make sure you have it in the correct orientation. Your bass strings are on the proper bass side there. And yeah, just put that off to the side. If you need to, you can wrap a piece of tape around the bridge to make sure it stays together. But that's that. You may also at this point want to put oil on your fretboard. I always use mineral oil. You can use any kind of oil, really, walnut oil. It just helps freshen up the board. It can make it feel a little bit slicker too, which is nice. But in this case, I'm just gonna proceed as usual. So the next step will be attaching the strings to the tailpiece. When you attach the strings to the tailpiece, it's a pretty straightforward operation. In this case, I have this custom tailpiece that uses ball end strings like this that you normally find on guitars. For mandolins, normally you'll have loop end strings, but you just want to attach the string in whatever place it attaches in the order that they go. So these are the low G strings. So actually what I do is I'll string the lowest low one, and then also the highest high, which in this case is the first string, and it's an E, also ball end, and I attach that in the furthest up position here. So I'm going to start with just those two and get them tightened up to tension in place so that I can get the bridge in the right spot for intonation, and then I'll fill the rest of the strings in. With the first string here and the 8th string here connected to the tailpiece, I will run them to the proper tuners. So the 8th string, the low G, goes here. This is true for guitars also. And I like to pull it through so there's about a finger width of extra loop here in front of the tuner. See, about like that. And maybe even a little bit more on these wound strings. I will crimp the string back so that it creases there, and then I'll pull tension here, and then I will wind it up, not to the point of being tense, but just that I know I have good engagement. Ideally, what I'm going for is 1.5 to 2 times around the post. If you have more than that, you can get some slack in there that takes a long time to work itself out, so you'll be retuning a lot early on. So I'll get that to where it's connected and good, and then I will also do that with the first string, but the first string is a different beast. Because the E's and the A strings are unwound, they're just plain strings, they have a tendency to slip through these, through the tuner posts. What a lot of people will do is just wind them around the tuner post, 5 or 6 times, and that friction will keep it from slipping through. But there's a better way to do it, and it's kind of like tying a knot. So you can see I've got the loop in the string. It's going through the tuner post. What I'm going to take is the extra. I'm going to go backwards around the outside of the post. I'm going to come around and under the business end of the string, like that. So this has come around and under, and then I'm going to pull it up and use the business end of the string to cinch it down. Let's see if I can. If you can see what that looks like. This business end of the string is now holding the tail end down, and as I tighten it down, it will cinch on itself and not slip at all. So then I just tighten that guy up about the same as how I did on the 8th string, where it's not quite all the way tight and not super tense. I like to also, well, these posts are straight, so they don't really direct the string on the post at all, and I like to pull those loops up so that they're together. Okay, so this string is engaged, this string is engaged. We'll go now to the bridge and and get that set and intonated and all of that. Okay, at this point I have my first string and my 8th string connected at the tailpiece, connected at the tuners up there. There's a little bit of tension on them, but they're still pretty loose. Now it's time to get the bridge in place. Hopefully it's still on the same post, that it hasn't come off and changed. The way to check for that is to hold the base of the bridge on the top and see which orientation it fits the best in. And then on the saddle, look for the wider slots. That's where the 7th and 8th string go, and then the skinnier slots is where the 1st and 2nd strings go. These are your G's, these are your E's. So I'm going to slip this under the strings. I've got a little bit too much tension on them, so I'm going to relax them a little bit. And get them into their proper slots there. You want to check the strings over the fretboard here and make sure that they are centered, that your bridge is in the right spot for that. So that's good. You can see I pulled the top 3 frets here. That's a different story. Okay, now start getting it up to tune. Normally I use Pano Tuner. It's an app on my phone, but since I'm using my phone to record this, I'm making do with a headstock tuner. I'm having trouble getting my tuner to read it. And these strings will be an octave below what a normal mandolin would have. So there's the E there, and there's the G there. The bridge did move a little bit on me, so now I'm gonna slide it back into place so that it's in the right spot there. That looks good. Now we get to what's called intonation. What you want is the 12th fret to be the same note as the 12th fret octave or harmonic. So here's the harmonic. Here's the fretted. I don't know how well this will come through the video, but harmonic is there, fretted is there. My fretted note is a little bit sharp compared to my harmonic. So if the fretted note is too sharp, the bridge needs to go back towards the tailpiece. So in this case, I'm only going to move it about a millimeter, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And we'll see what we get. You want to be really close to actually being in tune when you're doing this. If you do it while it's not in tune, you're going to intonate it for the wrong tension on the string, and then you'll end up with the bridge in the wrong spot. So check the harmonic, check the fretted note. Still sharp, so I'm going to move the bridge back. That's pretty close. So go to the E string now. So I know that this part of the bridge is in a good position. Now I'm going to check this part. Harmonic, fretted. Keep in mind too that the pressure of your string, of your finger here, can change the note. So when you press it down, think of the pressure that you would use to fret it, whether that's as hard as you can, or as soft as you can, or somewhere in between. You can always go back and mess with this. So I'm hearing the harmonic and the fretted. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So what we've just done is gotten the bridge in the correct spot for the intonation. Now what I'm going to do is fill all the rest of the strings in at the tailpiece, get them all hooked in and up to tune at the tuners. And in this case, all of the unwound strings will have that loop back with the tail where it sort of locks around. All the wound strings, so strings 5, 6, 7, and 8, will just go straight through the tuner post without the wraparound. I'm going to do that right now. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of the strings from the tailpiece up to the tuner. I might time lapse this, but I might slow down because the plain strings here, all of these will get the loop lock like we did here. But the wound strings will just go straight through. Yeah, here we go. Here we go, tying another knot. The string is going through the tuner. It's going to come backwards, around this way. Under the business end and then wrap it around like that. Cinch it over. Once the strings are all on, you'll have to retune it again because the tension from the new strings causes the top to go down, which causes the early strings to go flat. Sometimes if your tuner has trouble hearing, you can play the octave, and it'll pick up the octave, or I'm sorry, the harmonic octave. It's a good time to work on your ears too, to hear fifths. You have to run through this a couple times as the tensions on the strings all get worked out. Okay, now the last check is to go back to the intonation, which is over here, and you do your harmonic and the fretted note, and they ought to be it's a little sharp on my E string, so I'm going to slide that back just a hair. Cool. I think that's all close enough for me for now. You can get as uptight about that as you want. Sometimes you're not even playing far enough up the fretboard to make intonation matter a whole ton. Things to think about. Probably ought to mention a couple things that I left glaringly out. For instance, this is the truss rod. If you're putting on the same gauge strings that you had on before, you shouldn't have to adjust the truss rod at all. If you go heavier strings, you might have to tighten the truss rod. If you go lighter strings, you might need to loosen it. But really, if you don't know what you're doing there, leave it to somebody who does, or spend some time learning about it. The goal of this video was to just show how to change your strings. The last step you got to do is to cut off the excess strings. I just use these cutters and I get it up close to the post and snip. Over the years, I've learned not to brush my fingers too casually by the post because of these sharp ends. Some people work the strings back and forth until they break right at the edge. I don't like that. I like there being a little bit of string coming out of the post so that there's a place for it to hook and not slide back through. But if you've done everything else properly, these strings will hold, and it's got a nice new fresh haircut. Should be good to go. over the next few hours, your strings will be adjusting to the new tension, and so you'll probably have to retune a few times, but by the end of the day, they should be holding steady. The idea of connecting it to the tailpiece and up there at the tuners, that's universal. You can use that on guitars, banjos, and whatever, or really cool electric basses like that. Yeah. Anyhow, have a good one. Let me know what you think. Bye.